Good morning, y'all. Oh, it's Saturday morning. The sun is just starting to peak up and get light outside. We're out here in the shop again, working on the Cherokee again. So, as you can see, I got my 35s put on. They're Cooper Evolution MTs. And I could mount the tires by hand, but I went ahead and carried this thing up to a shop in Aiken, which is the next town over from here, and had them mount and balance the tires, and then also check the alignment. And so we know now that when we did the alignment, you know, the old-fashioned way with rulers and tape measures and string and such, I got the caster on, I got the toe good. So this thing has two problems right now that we've got to fix so that we don't tear up our new tires. So the first is the steering gearbox is shot. I could not tell it looking at it here in the shop, because with me just laying under there and trying to move stuff around, everything was, I couldn't move it by hand. But once they had this up on a lift in the shop, you could see it. So what was happening is this sector shaft that comes down here, which is where the pitman arm bolts on, whenever you go to steer, it's rocking back and forth. Now I will try to get some video of that and stick it in right here. So we need to replace that steering gearbox. Now, this is the first time in my life, and I've been working on cars since I was 15 years old. That's the first time I've ever seen a steering gear with that much play in it that you couldn't really feel in the steering wheel. But it's the first time I've ever seen one like that that didn't leak oil. It does not leak, but we're going to replace it. So I'm going to, now you don't have to do this, but I'm going to go ahead and remove this air box, because it's going to make things a lot easier, especially for being able to see what I'm being able to film what I'm doing. So I'm going to remove this real quick, and then I'll bring you back and we'll go ahead and get this steering gearbox replaced. And I also, so I went down to the parts, I got this gearbox here, and I also got a couple of power steering hoses and lines, because might as well replace those while we're at it. So let me get this air box pulled out of here and I'll be right back with you. Alright, y'all, so I had to take a slight detour, put some new motor mounts on this thing because the motor mounts were hashed. So now we're back to the gearbox. We've got our air box out of the way, and so now we can see what we need to work on down here. So we've got the shaft coming from the steering wheel. We've got to get that loose and take the two lines loose. I've got new lines to go on here, so we'll take them loose and just let them drain into the pan I got down on the floor under there. You'll notice I got it pulled in here with the wheels straight. So the standard when you get a new gearbox is they come sitting the way it should be for it to be straight. So if you keep everything straight, then the splines and everything should be pretty close to lining up. Once we get the two lines off and the the steering linkage off, then we'll go underneath and we'll have to take the pitman arm off, and also I've got a steering box brace I've got to remove it too. So let's get started with this. We're going to take this steering wheel loose first. It's a you got a little 13mm bolt right here in the clamp. It's splined and it clamps, so you got to get that off of there. And we'll just spin that out of there. It's kind of hidden under that radiator hose. Alright, so we've got the bolt out of it. Now, should be able to get behind it here and get it to pop on off of there. Yep. So, if you've got a later model Cherokee, and I'm not sure the year cutoff, this one's a 98, you can slide this up off of there and just set it out of the way. It'll slide back up in there because it's a collapsible steering column. You don't want to spin that while you got it loose, because it'll mess up that clock spring thing in the steering wheel, and we don't want that. So we just push that back like that, and that's off of there. Now we got to get these two power steering lines off. They're 18mm, and let's see if they cooperate. That one seems to have. Yep. They're kind of a pain in the ass to get to. There's not a lot of room there. But they both broke loose. So now it's just a matter of, alright, that one is rusted to the line. But since I've got new lines to go on here, so I'm not really worried about breaking one of these or twisting it up, so to speak, because it's not gonna hurt what I'm trying to do. So we got the lines off. Ended up having to just twist the ends of those metal lines off so I could unscrew them. Like I said, I've got a new set of hoses right there, so there's no reason to fight them. Now I've taken my drag links loose, or my sway bar links loose, so that the sway bar will swing up out of the way of the pitman arm. And we've got to pull that off. So it is a 33 millimeter socket that fits it, or the nut right here, or 1 5/16 inches, which is what I have on an adapter. So we'll go on and pull that. So if you were taking this loose and we're going to try to reuse this, you'd want to use a pitman arm puller. Looks like this. I have 2 different size ones, but the problem I've got is I don't really want to take all that off, and since we're not going to, I don't know if that'll go far enough the other way. Yeah, see, it won't go far enough the other way to use it. So rather than try to fight these bolts that are always really rusty and don't want to get them messed up, we'll do it the old-fashioned way. There's my nut and washer anyway. Set those to the side. May end up having to get my other puller. Yep. All right, let me grab that. I'll be right back. Okay, so since I can't get my proper pitman arm puller on this thing because of the sway bar, and I don't feel like taking all that off, I've got this old 2-jaw puller that's going to do the job for us, and it's easing it on down as we speak. So what you want to try to just avoid getting all of your wheels turned out of alignment and everything, so that as you ease this off of here, you'll have keep it all lined up so that it'll be easier when you go to put the new one in. This is easing on down off of here pretty easily. Come on. There we go. All right, she is loose from there now. So, there we go. Now that that is off, we'll kick that off to the side there. So now everything is loose from it. I got my clamp off for my brace, and I'm hoping that once I get the 3 bolts out, I'll be able to jiggle that on past there and not have to fight that, not have to take that brace all the way off, but we'll see. So now all that's left are the 3 bolts and she'll come on out of there. So let's get ready to do that. Let me grab the tools, I'll be right back. Alright, so holding your steering gear on are 3 bolts. 1, 2, and then up here is number 3, right behind here. So, takes a 5/8 wrench or socket. You can get the 2 bottom ones pretty easily with a impact. The top one you can maybe with a swivel socket or a universal joint. I'll be right back. Let me go see if I got one. Alright, hopefully y'all be able to see. So I like to start with that top one because it's such a pain in the behind to get to. I already broke it loose with a ratchet, so. So there's that. And now we'll get these other 2 here. Hopefully you'll be able to see. So these bolts, they go all the way through that unibody frame rail. There's a spacer and then the steering gearbox. So the factory spacer is aluminum, and a lot of times those bolts will get froze up in that aluminum, especially if you're in one of those states where they put this stuff on the road that rots your car out. So you might have to wrestle with them, and I would highly suggest replacing that aluminum spacer plate with a steel one. I have a steel one in here already, so. All right. So those bolts are out. Now we can go back underneath. I've got that one bolt just kind of hand threaded in there a little bit just to hold it in place until I get my hand on it under here. Let me get some light on the situation. Under here. There we go. So now I can kind of support the gear with one hand and pull that last bolt out with the other, and then this should wiggle on out of here. And you want to watch out for your face, because that plate could fall out and bust you up. Well, it's just like that. Just like that. Alright. So, now the gearbox is out. We can roll out of here and take a look at it and clean up some. Alright. So this is that spacer plate I was talking about, and it just goes right here. No, get it right here in a minute. Like that, right like that. Just like that. We'll just leave it out for now. All right. So what I can see already is I'm pretty sure this is the original. And you can, I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but if you look down in there, you can see all kind of pieces of the bearing in that, for that shaft down in there. Not good, not good at all. So that's out. Now I'm gonna take a minute and try to clean up a little bit under here, and we'll get ready to put the next one, put this new gearbox here back in there. So let me get cleaned up and I'll be right back. Okay, so this next part I'm gonna need all my hands, so I'll put the camera off to the side and try to film it, but I'll explain to you what's going on here. So you can see I've got my bolts stuck back through the holes there, and I'm going to take my spacer plate and set up here and get it on where it's supposed to be at, and get the bolts pushed in there to kind of hold it up there while I'm getting ready to do the other part of it. So yeah, okay. So we'll take our plate and put it up here and kind of get the bolts stuck in the holes. Like that. And then I push the bolts back so that they're not sticking out, but they'll hold that plate kind of in place. And then I'm going to have to get the steering gear stuck up in this hole without knocking that plate off, and then basically lay right here, hold the steering gear with one hand, and get the bolts started with the other. So hopefully you'll be able to see and understand what I'm doing, but I cannot hold the camera and the gearbox and the bolts all at the same time. Alright, so that's all looking good. And now we can tighten these bolts up. So what I'll do is run these up kind of hand tight with the impact, and then I'll fork them. And you'll notice I'm not hammering these down with the impact. All I'm doing is running them up, and then we'll get the torque wrench. All right, so now those are, you can see we've got the bolts in. Let me grab the torque wrench real quick. And these are 65 foot-pounds, these mounting bolts. There's two of them. Get up on this one up in here. All right, double check. Yep. So there we are. Those are on. Now we'll get ready to put the drag link back on, or the pitman arm. Pitman arm, not drag link. So let me swap out torque wrenches and sockets and get the stuff ready for that. So I'll be right back. All right, so now we got to get pitman arm back on here. So we'll have to move it, jiggle it around, and get the splines lined up. Just like that. So the splines are lined up, it's gone up on there. We can put our nut back on. And we'll run that back up on there. I think that is on there. So now I need my So the torque on this nut is 185 foot-pounds, which is quite a lot. So I'm gonna run this up on here with this ratchet until I get good and tight, and then I'll swap over to the other one. Oh yeah, that's looking good. tighten this. 185 foot-pounds is quite a lot, so you need to get in a comfortable position. All right, there we go. So we're all back together there, bolted up. So I'm going to get my sway bar links rehooked and get all this oil wiped up. And then we'll get on the top side and finish this thing on up and bleed it out. So, be right back with that. Alright, so we're all buttoned up underneath. I put my brace back on and all that good stuff. So now we've got to get the steering column back on there and bolted up. And then get the power steering lines put back on, the new ones. So, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a flat spot on the shaft here. And that fits with a flat spot in this coupler. So you can only put it on one way. And since we didn't move any of this, and the wheels are straight ahead, we should be pretty close. And it should, yeah, slide on there. Now when you put this on there, you want to make sure you don't slam it all the way up against there. You got to get the bolt in. Guess I should have showed you that part, huh? So if you look, see this, there's a gap around there, like a slot cut in it, and that bolt is going to fit in that slot. So you get your flat spot lined up. If you get it lined up right, it should just ease on there. It figures I took that thing back off and now it don't want to go. Okay. There we go. Put your bolt back in, and then you may have to jiggle it around to get the bolt to go down through there. Just be careful you don't get it cross-threaded. Pretty sure that's on there. Get my Oh yeah, that's in. So we just run that down tight. I don't know what the torque would be on that bolt, but my torque wrench is not going to fit down in here anyways. So we're gonna give her the old German torque. Good and tight. Alright. So there we go. Steering column hooked back up. Now we got to get us some power steering lines installed. And stop grabbing the rag that's got grease all over it. All right. I'm gonna go get a sip of water and I'll be right back. Okay, so we're gonna put these power steering lines on. Now something to check when you if you've got a rebuilt gear like this one, or even a new one, because they still test them. When I pulled the little blue cap off of the pressure port, still had an O-ring down in there, and the new hose also comes with an O-ring, so make sure you don't double O-ring this thing and cause yourself a nightmare. So we're going to put this pressure line down in here and get it kind of in its spot there, and you want to start all these with your fingers and make sure you don't cross thread them, obviously. So what I usually do is I'll put that there, and then I'll get this other end stuck in its hole on the pump. Get it started. Okay, power steering is all back installed, so I'm going to get my air box installed again and buttoned up, and then I'll bring y'all back and we'll bleed this thing out. So I'll be right back with that. All right, we've got the air box back together, and now we're getting ready to fill and bleed the air out of this. Hopefully everything works great and there's no leaks. So I've got a couple jacks under the front end of the truck, just kind of picking the wheels off the ground. It makes it easier to turn it back and forth. And we're going to put some oil in here, and everybody always wants to know what kind of oil you got. So what I'm using is ProTech hydraulic 10 weight. This is 10 weight hydraulic oil that's used in Komatsus and a bunch of other different construction equipment. It's excellent hydraulic oil, and unlike a bottle of power steering fluid, I own 5 gallons of this oil, and if I wanted a special hydraulic oil that says power steering on it, I had to go buy some. And this 10 weight oil right here is some tough stuff. So I have used it in the power steering on many vehicles and always have pretty good luck with it. So I'm going to fill this pretty close to the top as I can get it, because now when we get in the truck and start turning the steering wheel back and forth, that's going to start bubbling down and going down in there. So I'm not starting it yet. Yeah, I might have figured that was going to happen after I cleaned everything up. And the reason it happened is because I was trying to go too fast. Yep, and you can see the level in there went on down as you would expect it to. So now we will put a little more in there. See it. I don't know why I didn't just take a coffee can of oil and sling it all over under the hood, just right off the bat. Probably would have been as effective as doing that. Okay, so now we will crank the truck up after I crawl under there and wipe up all that oil. And and see what happens. So we'll be right back with that. Let me wipe this oil up. Okay, so we got all the oil, has no more air bubbles in it. So now we can what am I saying? So I've already run the tires back and forth probably 15 or 20 times with it not running. So now we'll crank this thing up and see how it does. Go. Now we have power steering again. And the fluid is not frothing up, so we got all the air out of the system. And the fluid level is good. So let me shut this off. And that is that. So I got some other work I got to do on this thing. Once I get done with that, then I will run it up the road and check the fluid, which I don't expect any, but it's always good to check. We'll run it up the road, do some steering, get it hot, check for leaks, double check the fluid, and we'll be golden. So that is that. New power steering gear. Hopefully this video has helped y'all out, or gave you an idea of what's involved with something, show you what tools you need and all that good stuff. And appreciate y'all watching and supporting the channel, and we'll see you in the next video. Y'all have a good one.